met so many people. I met like the whole Dire Straits band, Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac, Queen. I met all of them. And I had this book that I started collecting all autographs and records that like Sting and the Police signed, and my wife chucked them all out. Whatever you do, if you don't expect anything in return, I think that's the main thing. Anything I've done, I've never done it to sort of gain something from me. No, restaurants are very good, but I think if you walk into a place and say it's full and think, they're making millions, they don't. It's a lot of hard work. It looks very glamorous, but it's not, because it's just very, very hard.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I just have a favour to ask before we begin. If you've been enjoying these conversations and want more stories that redefine success, please do us a massive favour and hit the subscribe button over on our YouTube channel. It literally takes 2 seconds to do and is completely free. It's a small gesture, but it makes a massive difference for us, as it really helps us to grow the show. And with that, let's get into the episode. All right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast, and thanks for tuning in once again. Today on the show, I'm looking forward to this. We've flown down to Melbourne. We've got a few guests lined up, and I'm really looking forward to this episode because we're joined by David Cruse, who, he's been in hospitality for a long time. As you can tell by our background, he's a huge cricket fanatic, and, he's deeply tied to Sri Lankan and Australian cricket. And so really, excited to dive into his story.
Yeah, we are at the Spicy Wicket in Melbourne. What's the suburb, David, here?
This is Glen Waverley.
Glen Waverley, Spicy Wicket at Glen Waverley. And David Cruse is our guest today, and he's the owner of Spicy Wicket, and lovely to have you, David.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, David, this podcast is all about success.
Yeah.
And so I want to start with a very fundamental question, and that is, what does success actually mean to you?
That's a good question. Success, I mean, if you're not measuring it with wealth, like monetary wealth, I think success is how you live your life, what you can do for other people, and, a simple life, but you can't count it with dollar amounts.
Yeah.
And when you say what you can do for other people, are you like talking about impact that you can have?
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of us who are migrated to Australia, one of the best countries in the world, are very lucky. When you look at 90% of the population of Sri Lanka, and if you could help a few of them, I think that's success.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, David, for us to really understand you as a person, I'd love to go back to your early life. Can you take us through, your childhood and your upbringing and how you think it has shaped who you have become?
I think, like a lot of people, it was a tough upbringing. My dad was in the Air Force, so we traveled from one place to another, from Trincomalee to Jaffna to Kartanayaka, went to a few schools, I'm the eldest of 3 kids. And then, since about 1975, when I was still in school, the only thing I wanted to do was to migrate to Australia, because all my mom's side people were here. Yeah. And I mean, this sounds like that I didn't like Sri Lanka. That's not the case. I love Sri Lanka. It's just our system was wrong, and
So where did you grow up in Sri Lanka?
So as I said, my dad was in the Air Force. So I first went to school in Trincomalee at St. Mary's Convent with the ex-Air Force commander, because there's a small group of people who lived in China Bay, the Air Force base there. And then I went to Dimesned. So I grew up in a lot of different places. So I saw the whole country as a kid.
Yeah.
So and how important do you think that like early exposure to being in different places was for you?
It is. it is really weird because I mean I can remember when this is as a little kid, you know, everyone in China Bay was a little. It was mostly Tamil was spoken in their homes,
Yeah.
and we used to have someone who worked in our house, and they used to like to send the kids to our place so that they would learn English. But what happened was they didn't learn English; we learned Tamil, you know. So. And then when we came back to Colombo or to Katnaka, we were very good. There was a lot of people in Negombo who spoke Tamil, but in the Air Force camp, we were the only kids who spoke English, Sinhalese, and Tamil. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And when did you actually came to Australia?
So about 45 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I mean, did you come with the whole family?
Whole family, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad, mom, my brother and sister, and myself.
Yeah. What were the fond memories that you have when you were young in Sri Lanka, like living in different places?
It was really. I mean, the beach. We lived on the beach, you know. So up to today, I still love the beach. You know, I love salt water, and you know. So we grew up. We ran on the beach, you know, and I was lucky when my grandparents lived in Vattala. And my grandparents' neighbors were the Vaniers, famous Vaniers, you know. Simone Vanier, I think she competed for the Commonwealth Games, won a gold medal for Australia.
Yeah.
And her son's in the Olympic team now, you know. So we used to run with them on the beach, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So the beach is my main thing, and the church festivals, you know, like from Vattala Church Feast to the Kadana Church Feast, you know. So they are my memories, you know.
Yeah. And what are the values that you think you got from your parents?
Parents, my very, they were very. How would I put it? They always thought about somebody else, you know. They were always
self-giving.
yeah. So. And my dad was like that. My dad passed away, I mean, quite a while ago, about 12 years ago. And even today, I meet people and they say, that was amazing, man. Because he didn't have a lot, but...
Yeah, he wanted to share whatever he had. Yeah.
And I want to know, like, were there any early signs that you were going to end up in the hospitality game?
I think because I think because we were very hospitable, you know, so that's sort of a part of it, you know. And when I came here, I think we came on a Friday, and you would remember on Saturday you bought the Age newspaper, which was about that thick, and there was an employment section which was about that thick, and you look for jobs. And I rang a few places, and my first interview was at a hotel, you know, and I went there on Monday, and I had the job. So I started working there, and that was the Rockmans Regency. And it was like it's a famous hotel, and everyone sort of stayed there, all the bands and, you know, sportsmen, everyone stayed there. So I fell in love with it, you know.
Yeah. So before that, you didn't have any experience in hospitality?
Yeah, I did actually. Before I came here, I was a sort of half graduate from the hotel school in Sri Lanka.
So you went to hotel school in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So you had some interest in working in hospitality. Yeah. Do you know how you got that apart? Yeah, you mentioned that you're a hospitable family, right? So is that the only reason, or you thought?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I always wanted to be a pilot. You know, we're still fascinated with the airplanes and all because
Your dad
my dad was in the
Air
Air Force. You know, and it was always like, even now, my wife tells me if we get on a plane, I would know everything about the plane. And my eldest daughter, who is like 34, she's also like that. She's just absolutely interested in planes, and you know, and that was my dream, was to be a pilot. And then so we migrated here, and then thought I should start doing flying, but never got into it. You know?
And I want to know, coming to Australia at a youngish age, what was the was it easy for you to fit in? Was there any like big cultural differences that made it hard
I think
for you?
it was easy. I think for us Sri Lankans, I think going back 30, 40, 50 years ago, I don't know what it's like now, we sort of like the same sports, we speak
true.
the same language, and we sort of relate very well to sort of Australians. You know? And I think we're no different to Australians. So I think we fitted in well. And so it wasn't, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you always have something that you think you feel sad someone said that to you, but
But you also had many relatives living here that time. Yeah. But I mean, this is way back, right? 40 plus years ago. But were there many Sri Lankans living in Melbourne?
See, I still up to today I couldn't tell you how many Sri Lankans live in Australia because everything you read is completely different from what you read the next day. You know, of how many.
Yeah.
So they say like 30 years ago there was only 30,000 Sri Lankans. I don't think that's right, you know. And now they're saying we got only 140, 150,000. I don't think that's right, you know. So and when they say Sri Lankans, is it Sri Lankan parents or kids born here?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I want to know, we're here in the 12th man bar, and it's obviously we're surrounded by a lot of cricket memorabilia. Was that a love that you had from a young age?
I do. As I said, my dad was in the Air Force and he played cricket, and he was the manager of the Air Force team, which was called the Edestians. Edestians. That was like a Division 1 team, played in the Sara Trophy in Sri Lanka. And Tony Opata,
I remember.
he played. Ajit Jayasekara, Channa Gunaratna, they all played, and they were very good cricketers.
Yeah.
So, and I used to hop in the Air Force bus and go with my dad, you know. So as a kid, and I used to sit and watch them, and then I used to bowl to them, or I used to bat with them. But I was no good cricketer. I was terrible. I always thought I was good, but I was not good. So I had this passion about cricket. It's a bit different now because everything revolves around T20 cricket, and I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I like the
Test cricket.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So when I want to go back to that, you're finding your first job in hospitality, and what happened after that?
So I worked there. I met my wife there. So So my wife's from Shepparton, a country town in Victoria. So this was 40 years ago. I met her there. She was working in the restaurant, and I was doing room service. And we met. We went to Sri Lanka on a holiday, and we've got 4 kids, married for over 40 years. So good memories, you know, and I was very lucky. I was when I was working at the Rockmans Regency, as I said, every band, every tennis player, they all stayed there. So I met so many people, you know. I met like the whole Dire Straits band.
Wow.
Like you name any singer who toured here, and I met them, and I worked at a lot of their concerts, you know. Because the staff who worked at the hotel went and did all the merchandising and all. So I met like Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac, everyone. Yeah. And I had this book that I started collecting all autographs and records that like Sting and the Police signed, and my wife chucked them all out in the tape, you know. Queen, I met all of them, you know.
You were spending too much time with the memorabilia. So that's why
it was in the garage, and one day she just decided to tip everything out.
And I want to go to that point. Like, I'm sure a few people have had the opportunity to, you know, work around, you know, celebrities. But what is it about you, or how did you approach the situation?
As I said, I just worked in room service. I took trays up with food to people, and I don't know, for some reason I used to get along very well. And then I can remember, sounds like I'm bragging. John McEnroe's wife, Tatum O'Neill.
Wow.
They used to stay there during the Australian Open, and she used to always ring downstairs for room service and say, could you send David up, like with the food.
Yeah.
So I used to go, and this is 1984, 84. She used to tip me like $50 US.
Wow.
So I loved it, and I used to collect all these autographs and send pictures, or not send pictures because you couldn't send pictures. I can remember going to Sri Lanka on a holiday and taking all these things and showing my friends, and then I thought, maybe I'm bragging, like that I had known all this. Not that I'd met all these people.
And the hospitality game is quite a hard game to be in. Were there any mentors or people that you looked up to who helped kind of guide you?
When after that, I joined this company called Whitman, who owned about 15 hotels, and the managing director, Brian Brady. So I looked up to him a lot, and that's how I got into. We ended up buying a share of the hotel.
All right.
That one of the hotels, So that's So I think he's retired now. He lives.
So that's a hotel, like
Knox.
Knox Hotel, like a little bit away from city, like the country.
It's about 10 minutes from here.
All right, not too far. Yeah.
And what was it that inspired you to go? I want to buy into this hotel.
So you're working there, and the opportunity arose that we bought a very small percentage, about 4 or 5%, and then gradually we increased it. Every time we had a bit of money, we bought a bit, and then we became the majority shareholders.
Wow! And you were doing that with your wife and mum, correct? Yeah.
That's right.
And so I want to go to that point. Living and then working with your partner. How do you maintain that balance?
It was bloody hard. No, it was good. I think a lot of my friends say that she does all the work and I just pretend that I'm working. So no, it was good. It was good. I mean, even here,
even now, right? You're still working together.
We work together now. I got the better deal. I work during the day, and she works during the night.
Yeah. But having a good understanding, that's the most important thing when you're doing.
It is, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's sometimes it's very hard,
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. So David, so after that hotel business, so did you decide to go into restaurant, or how that worked?
No. We sort of. 2012, I think, we sold the business, and so I've got 4 kids, and the 2 eldest ones, between the second one and the third one, the age difference was close to about 8 years. So the 2 eldest kids had finished school and they started uni, and the 2 young ones were still in junior school. So once we sold the hotel, we thought, we'll go and semi-retire in Sri Lanka, or retire in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So we went to Sri Lanka, took the 2 kids out of school, and put them in school in Sri Lanka. They struggle, absolutely struggle, and so it was really good. The first 2 months, 3 months. I used to read every newspaper. Then all my friends and all, after about a month, they said, we got to go to work. You were just sitting and doing nothing. And then after about 3 or 4 months, I got bored. And then I told someone, we should do something. And Upali Dharmadasa, who, I think he's an Anandian, who owned Navaloka, said he was a passionate cook. He loved cooking and he loved entertaining. And his parents' home, that he was the youngest kid in the family, so he got the house. It was in Alexander Avenue in Colombo 7. Yeah. And it was just closed. And he said, why don't we do a restaurant? And I said, all right. And we got into it. And it just took off because I mean we had a very good concept, you know, that, like traditional Sri Lankan food. Because in Sri Lanka, otherwise you had to go to a 5-star hotel or have something at a street. So this was like
in the middle.
and it took off, and luckily all my friends who were cricketers used to always come there, and by them coming there, everyone won. So it just absolutely took off. And then my 2 young kids were not struggling, but they wanted to come back home. So my wife said, we'll go back home. And then Upali got sick, and I didn't want to leave him. So I said, all right, you go. I'll stay here and till he gets better. So we came and we opened this so that she had something to do as well. And I used to go up and down. And then 2018 or 19, I thought that's enough. I'll come back here. You know. So that's how we got into.
So what was the first reason that you went back to Sri Lanka?
No, we wanted to retire. You know, like, we had worked, you know, especially in a hotel, and
it was close to 30 years you guys ran the Knox, right?
Oh wow! And
so, but then I think restaurants and hoteliers, they always die on the job, you know, because you can't retire. I think.
So your retirement didn't last too long.
It's about, I think, 6 months, and then we opened the restaurant, and that year, the first year, I'd never worked so hard in my life, you know.
And then, like, I want to go to when you opened up here. How was it kind of, you know, taken by the local community?
At the start, it was tough. Like, I mean, restaurants generally, I mean, you could have the best restaurant, but it is tough. But then we sort of replicated exactly what we did in Sri Lanka. Same ingredients, everything. So it was very authentic.
I mean, Upali's is one of my favorite restaurants when we go to Sri Lanka. Because as you said, it's in the middle, right? And you can have all the authentic food, clean, and you know, like not like quality, and you can spend a good quality time there as well. So great concept, you know, what you've done. But I guess here in Melbourne, it's a very competitive landscape, right?
I think it comes down to, I think, money as well. You know, people are very careful with how. I think the difference with Sri Lankan food, and I'm not sort of taking Indian food or Malaysian food, we've like, see, the price, like a steak, you know, if you take a steak, you go to a pub that used to sell steaks for like $18 or $20. Now it's $45, $50, right? But people won't say anything. They'll buy the steak, they'll have it and go. But with Sri Lankan food, what we were selling for $10, if we put it to 20, people won't have it. They'll just complain and say, we can make this at home for $5, you know. So it is not, I don't think it's that they think they're getting not getting value. It's this concept we got, like Sri Lankan food or Indian food or Malaysian food should always be cheap. It's not the case though, because the cost for anyone cooking a steak or cooking a curry, the same gas, same electricity, same price. You're cooking a
labor,
everything is exactly the same. So we and with the Sri Lankan restaurants, a lot of them are very good, and they got not a lot of overheads, like the mom and dad cooks in the back, and so there's no labor cost, and rental is cheap. You know, like here, if you look at the size of our thing, and then you look at the staff, we got. So what we charge is not that we're making millions. It's just
quite
to
reasonable.
keep it going. You know?
So you need to be sustainable, right? And so David, when you say hospitality, are you also a good cook?
I don't know if I'm a good cook.
You have to say you're a good cook, you know, otherwise people won't come to.
Cooking is a thing you're not. You can get trained as a chef. or you could have, in Sinhalese they say ate guna.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
That you don't
Ha-
measure
hand,
anything.
yeah.
You just put everything
Do it by
together.
feel.
So I'm a bit like that,
Yeah.
but I can't say if I'm a good cook.
Yeah.
Like I think
Someone else, others to judge, right?
Yeah. So it's like, but my head chef, who was a refugee who came on a boat here from Jaffna, not like officially qualified.
Yeah.
But he worked in his mum's little kade on the side of the road, made string hoppers and all. Amazing cook, amazing in the sense, like he's also like that. He'll just throw a bit of thing. He doesn't have any formal training, but like
Naturally
gifted. And he's been here since day one. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was a refugee.
Yeah. How difficult to find the right people when you're running?
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Very. Like there are a lot of people who are here as chefs, but I don't think they've done that because the passion or love of cooking. It was just to get get residence here.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And there's all these catering schools that don't even exist. They exist only
On
by
paper.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you started this business here in Australia in 2018, around there.
No. So it's 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Okay, a little bit more. Or how did you survive the pandemic? Yeah.
But it was very hard. But my wife and I, we enjoyed it because you worked from like say 12 to 8. That's it, you know, and you did only takeaway. So you went home at 8:30 and sat and had a bottle of wine, you know. And we've sort of we spent so much time together, you know, instead of working. You know? So it was very hard, though, you know, like for the staff, you know, we've got a lot of students who work here in the front. They all had to go back, like it was hard because you still had to pay your bills, you know, you had to pay your electricity and you didn't get concessions. So it was very hard. And then once we came out of it, you thought everything was going to get all right. But then, you know, every time they talk about interest rates going up, people don't go out, you know, because people, the first thing they do is cut down, you know,
all these extra stuff.
spending, you know.
And, you know, being in the hospitality game for so long, what do you think are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
Patience, I think. Patience and tolerance, you know, because I've come to a stage now, you know, I'm 64. I've lost a lot of patience, you know, and I don't put up with, I used to bend backwards to everyone. But I don't anymore. Like, I'll try and, if people are nice to me, we don't serve coffee here. We serve only tea. But there's a brilliant bakery next to there's coffee. So if someone really wants a coffee and they're nice, you know, if they're they're just general people and they say, "Can we get a coffee?" I'd go out and get a coffee and bring.
That's why we must be very nice, right? So we get a coffee.
So that's the extent I'd go to. But if people are short and treat the staff like shit, I'll take their money and serve them their food. That's it. I won't go out of my way, you know.
If I ask this question, like, you know, I mean, you have a big menu, a food menu, right? Like in the restaurant, to one of the dishes to represent you, which one you picked?
From our whole menu.
Like, you know, just your character representing.
I'm a very string hopper. I love string hoppers, you know. Like everyone raves often about hoppers, you know. But I'm
more
if I went somewhere and they served hoppers, I'll have it, but I wouldn't sort of chase it. So I'm more string hopper guy.
Okay.
And David, like we've been told by a lot of people that we've spoken to, you're very involved with fundraising and trying to give back to the community, and especially over in Sri Lanka as well. Where does that stem from, and are there any main causes that you're trying to help?
So we look after Roshan's trust, Roshan Manana's trust, because he does a lot of work with hospitals and and then Kushil Gunasekara, the Foundation of Goodness, which is Murali's.
Yes.
So I've done a lot of work with them from. They've been in existence about 25 years from day one, and then I don't know if it still exists. There was a thing called AUSLAMAT, Australia Sri Lanka Medical Aid Team.
Right.
So that first started after the tsunami. My wife, because once the tsunami happened, and then I spoke to Murali that afternoon, and he was going to Kushil's place in Sinigama, and he had to turn back and come. And I asked him, what was happening, and he said, it's really bad. I said, I heard there's about 1,000 people had passed away.
Yeah.
He goes, what 1,000? It was in the
Yeah.
10,000, 15,000. And this is Murali.
Yeah.
And then I was pacing up and down at home thinking, what do I do? And my wife couldn't stand it anymore. She rang this radio station, 3AW, I think. So it's one of the stock back shows, and said, this is what's happened. And luckily they got someone from Qantas, and Qantas got a jumbo jet. And said, if you got, because I had a lot of doctor friends who said, we like to go and help only if we can go there.
Yeah.
So then she organized this plane through 3AW and got these doctors, there's about 10 doctors. And so they went like the second day after the tsunami, and some of them went to the East Coast and some of them stayed on the South Coast and did a lot of work. So it was called AUSLAMAT, and I was the first president of that. And then my wife and Dr. Quintus, Dr. David Young, who helped Sri Lankan cricket a lot. So he did the Batiklo orthopedic hospital as well through. So we got that was the start of AUSLAMAT, and I think they still do. I don't know if they do medical work, but they spend a lot of money and all. So it's always something's come up. At the moment there's this young kid who's 22, Indian boy. He's running from the bottom of India to the top of India, 5,000 kilometers. Wow. So he started on the 26th. Today is the 6th or 7th day, and he's trying to raise money for leprosy kids. Wow. So when one of his coaches, who was a Sri Lankan boy, approached me and said, can you do something for him? And we did a fundraising dinner for him here.
Oh, nice.
And, so things like that. People approach me and we have a look, and say, all right, it's worthwhile doing. Like this is a 22-year-old kid to do that. It's just...
That's amazing. That's wonderful what you're doing. David, I want to ask about one of very close subject to you, which is cricket, right? You know so many cricketers and you love the game. And maybe that's coming from, obviously, all Sri Lankans, like coming from Sri Lanka, love cricket. But how did that really, like when you come to Australia, and how did you connect with so many cricketers and how that began?
So I was involved in a team here called Paran Cricket Club. So Dev Watmo was from Paran, and then Aravinda played at Paran. And Paran was like the unofficial Sri Lankan connection to Australia. And the chairman of Paran was the chairman of the Australian Cricket Board. He was the longest serving chairman of the Australian Cricket Board, Bob Parrish. And he's the one who voted for Sri Lanka to get test status in 1980, before we played test cricket. So that's how it all started. Yeah. So Aravinda, Roshan and Asanka played here in 88 or something,
Yeah.
So I got to know Roshan quite well, and then Aravinda. They became close friends, and through that you meet everyone, and that's like Paran, who Dev Watmo ended up going and coaching Sri Lanka, helped Sri Lankan cricket a lot, and Bob Parrish as well, and so that connection through Paran and Sri Lanka, and I was the sort of conduit because I was Sri Lankan and
And
I was in New
Australian,
Ireland.
yeah. So, and then you got to meet so many Sri Lankans, right?
Yeah, a lot of Sri Lankan cricketers. And when we had the hotel, we used to have, every time the Sri Lankan team came here, we always had a dinner for the whole team. And then I did a thing for Mahela in 2002, I think, when they were building this cancer hospital. We did a match in Hastings, which is in the country. The Sri Lankan national side versus Victorian countryside. So the Australian Cricket Board said, no, you can't have it in the suburbs because it's going to clash on the third day of the test match. So we had to have it in the country, and we still got about 8,000 or 9,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was amazing. We raised about $50,000, and it was like, if I'm mistaken, it's about, because we charged about $4 or $5 in the gate per person.
Wow.
And that night we had a dinner at the hotel and donated close to $50,000, to the cancer hospital. So I've been connected. So I've got to know all of them, and I'm very close friends, as you know, with Roshan and Arvind and Chaminda Vas.
Yeah. How did you build that relationship with those guys? Just
I
meeting?
think Arvind through Paran,
yeah.
and then Roshan used to play Sunday cricket here
Okay.
with the Kanayaka brothers, So I got to know him, and Roshan's such a gentleman. And so he's one of my closest friends,
That's
And how important then, given so many of your connections are through cricket, how important do you think sport is?
Very important. I think there was this gentleman, a Greek gentleman, who has like four sons, who two of them played the Big Bash. Peter Hetzeglu. Hetzeglu is the surname, and he always told us, get kids into sport because then they won't they'll be very good because you know where they are. They'll play a sport, they'll hang with those kids instead of roaming the streets, and I always thought that. And sports sort of brings everyone together. You look at cricket. I think most of the cricketers, even, they become friends for life because you spend so much time with them.
Yeah.
And speaking about your kids, I want to know, are there any other lessons or values that you're trying to impart on your children?
I think the thing is to be nice and good to
Others.
That's
Just like.
And my two eldest daughters are teachers, so
nice.
So even that, my eldest one always wanted to be a sports journalist, because I had all the cricketers come and stay there at my place, and she wanted to be a sports journalist. And she went to uni to do that. She got a apprenticeship with one of the radio stations, and then the two eldest girls went to Sri Lanka and decided they'll go and work for a week at Kushil's Foundation. And they were teaching young kids, and they thought, this is our calling, and they got into teaching. So they had to go back to uni and do.
And also your restaurant called Spicy Wicket. That's quite obvious, right?
It is. It was actually a friend chose the name.
All right. Do you have any plans to kind of expand the business?
I think my plan is to retire
again.
So what's the plan for Spicy Wicket?
No. I think we'll keep going on.
Your kids are not interested in taking over.
No. They've seen how hard it is.
What I'm taking away is you're incredible at building relationships. So I'd love to know, from your perspective, how can you build strong
No, I think as long as you do whatever you do, if you don't expect anything in return, I think that's the main thing. If you're doing something to get something in return, then I think that's
that's the fundamental for relationships.
Anything I've done, I've never done it to sort of gain something from me. Like, I mean, Chaminda was staying with me for about a month. He came here for a wedding last year, him and his wife. And even though Chaminda is like 12, 15 years younger than me, we're very close friends.
Yeah.
And he kept telling he kept telling me that he wanted to do a video for the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I just kept ignoring it, And then he convinced Kathy and me, he wants to do one. So he got someone to come, and he did a whole like a promotion for me.
Yeah.
And then somebody told me, he's doing that because he's staying with you, And I said, no, because I didn't want him to do it. I didn't expect anything. He just did it because, I don't know, he felt like he wanted to do something for me. And it's the same thing. I said, he didn't do it expecting anything from me. Like I didn't. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And David, we're surrounded by a lot of memorabilia here. Is there any or a few pieces that mean a lot to you?
I'll offend somebody if I pick some.
Sure.
Like it's like people ask me who is your favorite cricketer in Sri Lanka. I won't answer that because
they're all your friends.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of apart from this Sri Lankan collection and shirts, Warnie shirt there. I've got a lot of things that I got from Bob Parrish from the Australian Cricket Board that are absolute treasures, like I had files from the Australian Cricket Board signed by Don Bradman when he was the chairman.
Wow.
So I got that's in a safety, not box, but safety thing. And then I got an ashtray from the 1948 Invincibles tour to England. So every Australian player got this silver ashtray with their signatures and with 3 wickets on it on the 19. So there was 14 of them made, and Don Bradman's one.
What?
He was anti-smoker, and he had a bit of a temper.
Yeah.
So he just flipped it, and it broke the wickets. So another member of the team picked it up, and he played for Paran. So he gave it to Bob, and then Bob, before he passed away, gave it to me.
Amazing.
So I've got that. And those files, they're sort of not even collector's items. They're more like history.
Yeah. Like
there's one file that they did in 1967, the tour to Sri Lanka, I think. Australia toured. And it's a brilliant file. If you read that, I want to share it with everyone, but Bob's son, who just passed away, so he said, no, don't do it till we're all gone. In that one, so the Australian team, I think 1967, they toured Sri Lanka. So they had to go to Singapore, and from Singapore, go to Colombo. And they were on the Yarsilon plane. I might not get the plane right. I think it was a DC-3 or DC-10.
Okay.
So they put all their cricket bags in, and the plane went, and it couldn't take off, So they had to come back and unload all the cricket bags because there was so many cricket bags. So the weight was too much. So this is in a report, the manager's report.
Yeah.
So they took the bags out on the plane, and they went to Colombo. They checked into the Sapphire Hotel in Melbourne. That was like, and a few of the players said, we've checked in here. It all smells like coconut oil. Because I think they had a wedding there and they were frying stuff. And that's all you could smell, the coconut oil. And they said for the whole month, the only decent meal they had was at the Australian High Commission. This is in 67, which you could understand, It's not like now. I mean, the Sri Lankan food is amazing, So stories like that, they were just... these files are full of...
I mean, all these memorabilia, right? They're sort of given to you, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you purchase them somewhere.
I've not bought one thing.
So it's all... Everything's got a connection, right? Everything's got a story, right? If you go one by one, you said, how did you you got that, different people. I mean, not just Sri Lankan cricketers. There's so many different cricketers, come
So-
here and
Yeah, so you know how I started doing it.
yeah.
It's to do with Roshan. He gave me one of his shirts. Don't think I even asked him. In the Independence Cup shirt that he played in. So he gave me that and I hung it up. And then every time a cricketer came, you want one of my shirts. And I kept getting one.
All right.
And talking about Chandika is your friend.
Yeah.
Right? In the 95 tour here, Chandika gave me his shorts, black shorts with Singer on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I still got it, right? That's from
Wow.
30 years ago. And that was called my lucky shorts.
Oh, right.
So every time Sri Lanka used to play, I used to wear those shorts, and for some reason they always won. So I still got it. And in a very crucial match, I'll still wear it, thinking. But recently we've not been very lucky.
So Chandika's lucky pants, you got
Lucky
it.
shorts, yeah.
So what, you mentioned Roshan Mahanam and you had a very good relationship. What sparked that relationship?
I think he is a guy like that as well. He doesn't do anything to accept, to get something from you. He's just. So I think we
Similar
had
personalities.
Yeah.
And you've helped a lot of like young cricketers who have come, to Australia.
Yeah. No, I have, but I think there's a lot of people who have done that. You take like someone like Harry Solomons, from Sydney.
Yeah.
He's helped a lot, and then the Ekanayaka brothers, Frank and Bertie, and then there's lot of older people who helped Sri Lankan cricket at its infancy, like Dr. Quintus de Silva. He's quite old now, and so there's a lot of people who have helped him who don't sort of go out and say, this is what we did. You know?
For sure. But personally, do you feel proud knowing that some of those people have gone on to do great things?
Very much so. There was this young kid who in Sri Lanka, I'm not sure if he plays cricket anymore, but he made the Sri Lanka under-19 side. His mum and dad both passed away in the tsunami, And so we sponsored him as a kid, put him through school. And I used to take a lot of teams to Sri Lanka from here, like Australian teams, And there was this association called the Aravalli Association. So they took this team there, and we got this young boy and another boy from Royal whose father passed away as well in the tsunami. And they toured with the team, So it was very good to see him making the under-19 side. He toured Australia with the Sri Lankan side. So things like that sort of was very good, But now I think a lot of them don't need a lot of help because the money is so big, Like I can remember we used to, when we were in our infancy in Sri Lankan cricket, we used to sell hot dogs at there was no Bunnings then, it was Mitre 10 to buy helmets for the cricket players, But to see where they've come is just amazing.
I remember early 1990s when the Sri Lankan cricket team came to Australia. They didn't have the real gear, right? They were wearing like sausage gloves, right? So I remember we collect some funds and brought them because they were not professional cricketers, right? So things it's all changed, right?
And when I say the infancy, we've been playing cricket for a long time, but infancy, the test status, when we got test status, In 95, when Chandika and them toured here, we had $1,500 in the bank account.
Wow.
That's what Sri Lanka cricket had. And they got Dev to coach Sri Lanka and Alex Konturi as the physiotherapist. So they couldn't pay them. And Australia actually paid their tour money before they came. And that's the first time ever, so that they could pay those wages.
Yeah, amazing. I want to go back to this, what you do, like the restaurant thing, right? So if someone thinking of starting a restaurant, young person, Do you have any advice or any hospitality?
I think if you could pick something else.
It's a
I think no, restaurants are very good, but I think if you walk into a place and say it's full, and think, oh, they're making millions. They don't. It's a lot of hard work, and it looks very glamorous, but it's not, because it's just it's very, very hard.
A lot of dedication required.
You got to do it for the love.
Yeah.
And I suppose, looking back on this journey, is there a proudest achievement or something that you look back on and you just have so much pride?
I if you take just personally, I mean, my first kid being born, I'm just about to be a grandfather.
Wow. Amazing.
I'm just counting the days for that. There's a lot, actually, meeting my wife. We've done so many different things that, people say, but you got to worry about your retirement and all that. Might die tomorrow, so we've done everything we want to do. And my wife's a hiker. She does a lot of hiking.
Right. Okay.
You ask anything, she's done it, she just, like, that's why I said I came from Malaysia last week. She did one of the mountains in Kota Kinabalu, and like it was a 3-day hike. She did the trail in Sri Lanka. She broke the record.
Wow.
She did it in 7 days. So her hiking, and I try to play a bit of golf. That's it.
Yeah, okay, nice. And you still go and watch cricket?
I do. As I said, I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I like the Test cricket, but like even the T20. I mean, the Big Bash has been going on for 15 years, I think. The first year I went and watched one game, and then when I helped Lasit to get into the Stars, Melbourne Stars. So that year I got invited twice, and I went once and watched the game. But this year I've been to 3 games, So totally I watched 5 Big Bash games.
And you also have a lot of Australian connection as well, cricket connection.
Yeah, because I'm like, where our hotel was Montana South. That was the Ferntree Gully District Cricket Association.
Right.
And so they used to tour Sri Lanka a lot as well. And then I used to Roshan came and played there when he retired. So there's a lot of Sri Lankan cricketers played there. And through them and Paran, and that Paran connection, I got to know a lot of the Australians. So even the current chairman, sort of good friends with me, they come here a bit, And then Glen, I've known him since he was a kid. And I've known his parents, because how I knew them, because they lived close to our hotel, and they were locals there. And he was an amazing story, Glen. When he was 12, we knew he would play for Australia, because he was so confident and not rudely, but he was this cocky little 12-year-old kid who always knew that he would play for Australia, And then young Sam Harper, he's from that area as well. It was just through geography.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I suppose, looking back on your journey, is there a legacy or something you'd like you'd like other people to hear your name and think about?
I think like what I hear about my dad, people, he had his faults and all of that, but when people tell me he was a good guy, he would give his shirt off his back.
So you want to continue that legacy?
Something to that effect.
But have you ever thought of could have done it in a differently, like when you're thinking of your 67 years backward?
No, but if then things would change. Like if I said, if I did something that I really wanted to be a pilot, I would have never met my wife, I wouldn't have met my kids. So the circumstances would be so different. So what you get is what you get. I think you think, if I did that, then you go back and think, then I wouldn't have what I've got now.
That's good.
And David, given your definition of success was largely around, that giving back, do you feel successful?
I think I could go to sleep in the night and fall asleep. So I don't I don't have to worry that what I promise people or what. I sleep very well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And this has been an incredible conversation. Learned so much about you and
great relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose throughout the conversation, I've been trying to jot down what I think are some of the traits that you embody, which have been part of your success. The first one I think is selflessness, and I think that largely came as a value from your family. But you always try and help out where you can, whether it's someone in need, trying to give them a hand, or just going above and beyond, trying to help others. And you mentioned, just like your father, you give your shirt off your back. The next one is you're very relationship driven, and I think that comes as part of who you are. You're very open and authentic, which is actually another trait. Is by being so open and authentic, people can connect with the real you. They don't feel like you're trying to get something out of them. You just go in and with that giving mentality, and people respect that, and people connect with that. And so I think that builds strong relationships. And obviously your authenticity is a huge part of why that all occurred.
And David, thank you so much giving us this opportunity to talk to you. I didn't really know much about you, but I spoke to quite a few people asking about David Cruse, and most of the people said one of the loveliest guys that you can meet. Now I know why, because that having this discussion, I really kind of connected to you and understanding you and your background, your history, etc. Your relationship you build on pretty much that give back mentality, right? You're nothing expecting in return. And I think that's a really fundamental thing for any relationship, because today world, right? Like we are full of people do something expecting double, right? That's but you're totally different. Like that's why you're connected to, doesn't matter if it's the normal people or the celebrities, because people can feel like you're not there to get something out of them, they are to offer your kindness, your real friendship. So that's probably the biggest takeaway out of this discussion. And it's really really nice to have this conversation, and thank you so much for hosting us on this wonderful facility like your Spicy Wicket. And we'll invite everyone to come and have a nice food and share that love David can give. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. I feel privileged. Like when I told my wife this podcast, and she said, "Who's done it before?" And this is like all the world-class cricketers from Sri Lanka and all the multi-millionaires. She said, "What are you doing?" So I feel privileged. And I think everyone's got a story.
Absolutely.
Everyone's got a story. I'm sort of, as I said, I won't change a lot of things in my life. If as I said that, what we get is, I think it's
absolutely. And for our listeners, if you've taken something out of today's episode, it would mean the world if you can like and subscribe, so that we can share stories like this with more and more people. And you can see all of our inspirational content over at our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com. And with that, catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.